My name is Stein Rambou, and I want you to hear the exact words my wife said to me the morning everything collapsed. Because those words are the reason I stopped trying to save my marriage and started building my life instead. She looked me dead in the eyes across the kitchen table and said, "You were never enough for me, Stein. You were just safe." I want you to sit with that for a second. 5 years. Couples therapy. Dinners I cooked. Trips I planned. Vows I meant. And I was just safe. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it actually started. A Thursday evening, a splitting headache, and a bag I should never have opened. I came home that night with a migraine pressing so hard behind my eyes I could barely see straight. The apartment smelled like garlic and warm bread. Monica was cooking. I could hear the shower running from down the hall. I called her name once. Twice. The water drowned me out. My mother's voice came into my head, the way it always did in quiet moments. I didn't expect it. She had said to me at my own engagement dinner, pulled me into the kitchen while everyone was laughing outside. "That woman smiles too perfectly, Stein. People who smile that perfectly are always hiding something underneath it." I told her she was overthinking. I told myself she was jealous of my happiness. My mother has been gone for 3 years, and standing in that kitchen with a headache and a strange feeling in my stomach, I would have given anything to call her and tell her she was right. I remembered Monica always kept paracetamol in her bag. That burgundy leather tote she took everywhere, the one she told me a colleague gifted her after her promotion. I'd complimented it once. "That's a nice bag, babe." She'd smiled that perfect smile and said, "I know, right." We had an unspoken rule in our house. Her bag was hers. I'd never once opened it in 5 years of marriage. I want you to understand that. This was not snooping. I was not suspicious. I was a husband with a headache who needed medicine and trusted his wife so completely that opening her bag felt like a violation of something sacred. I unzipped it slowly. My fingers moved through the familiar textures, her lip balm, her planner, her keys, a receipt folded in quarters. And then my hand closed around something flat and rectangular. I pulled it out and held it under the kitchen light. An unopened condom. A brand we hadn't used since before we were married. We stopped needing those 3 years ago. My thumb ran across the packaging once. Twice. The shower turned off. I heard Monica start humming. Something soft and tuneless, the kind of humming a person does when they feel completely at peace with their life. I put it back exactly where I found it. I zipped the bag. I sat at the kitchen table, folded my hands on top of each other, and stared at the wall with the kind of stillness that only comes when your entire world has just shifted 1 inch to the left and everything looks the same, but nothing will ever be the same again. Monica walked in with a towel around her hair, glowing, smiling. "Babe, you're home early." And I looked at my wife, really looked at her, for what felt like the first time. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I am. I want to tell you something about lying at a dinner table. Not the lying with your mouth, the lying with your whole body. The lying that requires you to pick up a fork and chew and swallow and nod and laugh while something inside you is completely on fire. I did not know I was capable of that kind of lying until that Thursday evening. I sat across from Monica and I performed the best version of myself I had ever performed, and I hated every second of it, and I did not stop. She had made creamy garlic pasta, my favorite, ironically. She set it down in front of me with that domestic ease she had, that way of moving around the kitchen like everything was exactly as it should be. I looked at the food and thought about the couples therapy session 2 years ago where I sat across from a stranger in a beige office and cried, actually cried, and said out loud, "I would rather lose everything I have built than lose her." I had been emotionally absent for 7 months during a brutal construction project. Always exhausted, always distracted, missing dinners, missing conversations, missing her. Monica had threatened to leave. I begged her to stay. I changed everything about how I showed up in our marriage. I cooked 3 nights a week. I booked weekend trips. I came home on time. I thought we had walked through fire together and come out on the other side of something unbreakable. I thought the hard part was behind us. I was sitting at that table understanding, for the first time, that the hard part had been walking toward me the whole time. "How was your day?" she asked, twirling pasta onto her fork. I told her about a structural issue on a project. She listened and tilted her head the way she did when she was paying attention. I asked about hers. She told me about a difficult client and laughed about something her coworkers said. I laughed too. Exactly on cue. Exactly the right amount. My eyes were doing something different from my mouth the entire time. I was cataloging the small gold earring she was wearing that I did not recognize and had not bought. The way she never once reached for her phone during dinner. I understood now that she had been deliberately managing that, keeping it controlled, keeping me comfortable. The way she poured herself more wine and leaned across the table and squeezed my hand and looked straight into my eyes and said, "I'm so lucky to have you. You know that." I squeezed her hand back. "I know," I said. She fell asleep on my shoulder an hour later watching television. Her breathing went slow and even and trusting. I sat completely still underneath her and stared at the ceiling and did not move for 3 hours. I was afraid that if I moved, something would come out of me that I could not put back in. At 2 a.m., I stepped onto the balcony and called Marcus. He answered groggy and confused, and I told him what I found. Flat. No emotion, like I was reading a grocery list. There was a long silence on his end. Then he said, "Stein, I need to tell you something and I need you to hear me out." And my hand tightened around the railing. He told me about my birthday dinner 3 months ago. Monica stepping outside 6 times. Coming back flushed. Laughing too quickly. He said nothing because the last time he warned a friend about his wife, he lost the friendship. He said he was sorry. He said it twice. I told him, "Okay, Marcus. Okay." And I hung up. He called back 4 times. I watched the phone vibrate in my palm and did not answer any of them. I went back inside. Monica was still sleeping exactly as I had left her, one hand tucked under her cheek, completely peaceful. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at her face for a long time. Then I picked up my phone and typed into Google, "best divorce attorneys in the city." I saved 3 numbers. I turned the phone face down on the nightstand. I lay back and closed my eyes and did not sleep until the sky started going gray. Monica left early the next morning for what she called a site visit. I called in sick, first time in 6 years. I opened the family laptop. Her Gmail was still logged in. I did not touch her inbox. I went to the browser search history. The name Dorian Vale appeared 9 times in the past month. I Googled it. LinkedIn loaded. Real estate developer. Relocated back to our city 8 months ago. Expensive coat. Expensive watch. I stayed at that watch. I had seen it before. I pulled up Monica's Instagram and scrolled back 6 months to a photo she posted and deleted within 2 hours. She said it was blurry. In the background of that photo, barely visible on a restaurant table, that exact watch. Dorian Vale's office was 4 blocks from the cafe Monica visited every Thursday for her so-called client lunches. I closed the laptop slowly. I sat in the silence of my own kitchen and understood everything at once. The deleted photo, the Thursday schedule, the burgundy bag she carried like it was precious. I picked up my phone and texted my attorney, "I'm ready to move forward." He replied in 4 minutes. Thursday came, and I got to the cafe first. I ordered a black coffee and sat in a corner booth with a cap pulled low. Monica arrived at 12:17. She was not dressed for work. She was dressed to be seen. Perfume I could detect from across the room, earrings catching the light. At 12:24 a.m., tall man in a dark coat walked through the door and Monica stood up from her chair. Their hug lasted too long. They sat close. They leaned toward each other. She laughed with her whole face, the way she laughed with me in our first year together, before mortgages and routines and the slow, comfortable weight of a life shared. At one point, Dorian reached across the table and tucked a strand of hair behind Monica's ear. She did not pull back. She closed her eyes for half a second, a small private exhale, like someone setting down something heavy they had been carrying all week. I stayed into my coffee. My knee bounced under the table. A waiter came over. "Can I get you anything else, sir?" I looked up with the calmest eyes I have ever worn in my life. "No, thank you," I said. "I have everything I came for." I left $20 on the table and walked out without looking back. I called my attorney from the parking lot. I went home and I worked. Not on grief, on architecture. I had 3 calls running at the same time. My attorney walking me through documentation, my accountant identifying every asset traceable solely to my income, and my brother, an estate lawyer, who listened to everything quietly and then said, "I'll be on a flight tomorrow morning." I moved my personal contributions from our joint savings into a private account. I emailed myself every property document, every contract, our marriage certificate. I photographed every room. I was not a man in chaos. I was a man in a controlled demolition, moving through each wall with a level and a blueprint. When Monica came home at 6, dinner was on the stove and I was on the couch watching sport. She kissed the top of my head. I patted her hand. "How was the client meeting?" She said, "Long, but good." I nodded. "I'm glad." I had submitted the biggest architectural bid of my career that same afternoon, a $30 million civic development project. I had been working on it for weeks. I submitted it sitting at that same desk, 2 hours after I first found what was in her bag, while she slept down the hall. Because I had decided something very early and very quietly. The best revenge was never going to be destruction. It was going to be construction. I called the venue the next morning. The coordinator, a warm woman named Helen, pulled up the booking with so much enthusiasm it physically hurt. "Oh yes, the anniversary package. She is going to love this, Mr. Rambou." I stopped her. "Please cancel it and refund the deposit." Silence. "Is everything okay?" I thought about it honestly. The person I was planning it for, I said, doesn't exist anymore. I thanked her and hung up. I opened my desk drawer and took out the ring box. Thin gold band. Single diamond. Nothing flashy. Exactly what Monica always said she wanted. I had written the vows on a folded piece of paper during lunch breaks. I took that paper out now and read it once, slowly, all the way through. Then I folded it again, walked to the kitchen, and held it over the gas flame on the stove until it was gone. I met Priya, Monica's sister, for coffee. She thought it was about the anniversary planning. She was smiling when she sat down. I did not smile back. I slid my phone across the table without a word. The cafe photo. The hug. Dorian's hand in Monica's hair. Monica's closed eyes. Priya stayed at it. Her hand rose slowly to cover her mouth. "Oh my God, Stein." I told her everything. The bag, the attorney, the accounts, all of it. She cried. I handed her a napkin and waited. When she looked up, I said, "I'm not asking you to choose sides. But I need one thing from you." She wiped her eyes. "Anything." What I asked her would matter in the final scene. She agreed without hesitation and reached across the table and held both my hands in hers and said, "Your mother would be so proud of how you're handling this." That was the only moment in the entire 2 weeks that I came close to breaking. Saturday morning I woke before Monica. I made breakfast, eggs, toast, sliced fruit, orange juice. I set the table properly, and in the exact center, between the 2 plates, I placed the condom flat. No note, no explanation, just that. I sat down, unfolded my napkin, and began eating. Monica came downstairs in her robe, hair loose, half asleep, and stopped on the bottom step. She saw the table. Every drop of color left her face in real time. She stood completely still. I cut my toast. Did not look up. She said my name. "Stein." I looked up with the calmest face I have ever worn. "Sit down, Monica. The eggs are getting cold." She opened her mouth. "Stein, sit." She sat today. She talked. She said the condom belonged to her friend Dana, who borrowed the bag once. I nodded and slid my phone across. Dorian's LinkedIn, his office location, 4 blocks from the Thursday cafe. She adjusted. Said he was just an old friend. I slid the cafe photo across. She stayed at it. Tried a third version. Emotional, not physical. It meant nothing. I held up one finger and she stopped. I was at the cafe. Monica. 2 tables away. I watched everything. The silence that followed had physical weight. Then she broke. Ugly, unmanaged. No strategy in it. I watched her without moving. Then I stood. "I filed the papers on Wednesday. My brother is handling everything. You'll be served Monday." Her legs gave out. She slid down the kitchen cabinet onto the floor. I stepped carefully around her, put my plate in the sink, washed it, dried it, and put it away. She said from the floor, voice destroyed, "You were never enough for me, Stein. You were just safe." I turned around and looked at her one last time. I know, I said. That's exactly why you're losing me. My brother had been doing more than filing paperwork. During his research, he uncovered that Dorian Vale had been running a fraudulent property scheme, collecting deposits from buyers for a luxury development that had no approved permits and no verified contractors. 11 families. Over $400,000. I had connected my brother with 2 of those families 5 days earlier. They had already filed regulatory complaints. My brother then made one anonymous call to a business journalist he trusted. The story ran on a Thursday, exactly 2 weeks after I sat in that cafe. By Friday morning, Dorian's LinkedIn was gone. His office phone disconnected. 2 business partners issued public statements distancing themselves. A formal fraud investigation was opened. I did not throw a single punch. I handed a corrupt man a shovel and stood back and watched him dig. On what would have been our vow renewal day, I gathered the people who had shown up for me: my brother, Marcus, Priya, 3 colleagues, my uncle. They came expecting a broken man. They got something else entirely. I stood in my living room and pulled out the ring box. I looked around at every face in that room. Marcus, who finally told the truth. My brother, who got on a plane without being asked. Priya, who chose honesty over blood. I said, I bought this ring to make a promise. I'm not going to waste what it cost me. I turned to my brother and placed it in his hand. Give this to your wife. Tell her it comes from a man who finally understood what it means to be truly chosen. His wife covered her face with both hands. 3 people in that room were crying. I opened a bottle of wine and poured 7 glasses and said, now, let's talk about what I'm building next. 2 weeks later, I got the call. We won the contract. $30 million. The largest project of my career. Submitted the night I first sat at that kitchen table with empty eyes and folded hands and a headache that changed everything. Monica got served the papers. Dorian Vale got investigated. And I got my future back. My mother was right. She always was.